Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today's webinar series from UpSign. So, as you know, UpSign is the UK-Pakistan Science Innovation Global Network. It's a charity based in the UK, and we try to work together with academics in the UK and in Pakistan and also around the world. The whole idea is to support research and innovation in Pakistan. So, those who have, I think most of you know, UpSign, been involved in doing some research activities in Pakistan as well. My colleague here, Professor Farooq Shah, and some other colleagues, they already been involved in some activities. And I'm glad today, after a bit of a break due to COVID and many things, things were just on a hold. So it's good that we are back in a way that we would like to work together with the Pakistani scientists. So UpSign was established back in 2018, and it was chaired by that time Professor Jawad Dar, who was a professor at UCL. And now we have got a new leadership. It's now chaired by Professor Parveen Ali. She's a professor of nursing at the Sheffield University in the UK. And the objective of the UpSign is to build research academic links with the UK and also with other countries. So I know as an individual, we are working in Pakistan, but there are many countries. The whole idea is this group will help to bring some kind of a joint effort. So it's not for profit organization. So please, those who are not speaking, would you mind turning off your mic? And I'll turn off the mics in case the other, okay, I'll just do it. So, and as you know, cotton plays significant role in Pakistan economy. And we've been looking at cotton from various perspectives. And cotton is a pest-loving crop, so it's grown in summer season, and when the summer there's no other crop, every pest love to come to cotton. So this is a bit of a challenge the crop is facing, and also with the climate change, there's a huge issue with new pests and diseases. And we have seen that pesticide application is not a solution. So blackened use of pesticide will even I would say it even makes the process even worse. So pesticides have developed resistance, pests have developed resistance. So I work in the institute in the UK, which has done a lot of work in pesticide resistance as well. So I will go in more detail later on, but I think before going in further details, we have got today's respectable speakers here. Thank you everybody for joining us. And a special thanks to Mr. Saqib Atil Saab, who's the Secretary for Punjab government. He's here. So he's going to give us a bit of insight into the IPM, where Punjab government is very actively supporting. And Mr. Saqib Atil is a civil servant with the Punjab government, and we are lucky to have him. So thank you very much, sir, for gracing this occasion. And we are really glad that a civil servant taking such a great interest in the challenges faced by agriculture, and especially IPM. So IPM is a strategy which would help a lot in terms of addressing the issues of pests and diseases. Before any further delay, I love to hand over to you, and welcome again, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khaled. It is a pleasure for me to participate in this event. And I hope whatever knowledge we'll get today, it will be beneficial for us, for the farmers of Pakistan, for the sharing of knowledge from academia. That will be helpful to all listeners, and it would be easier for us to communicate to our field, to our extension services, and to the farmers.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Today, my voice is a bit cronky, so I just picked up COVID. So sorry about this. So my colleague Farooq, please, would you mind sharing the slides that Saqib Saab has shared? And by the way, I have just made you co-host in case you wanted to show your screen, Saqib Saab.
Khaled, I haven't received the slides yet, so can you please email me? So again,
it's in the WhatsApp. So So maybe Saqib Sahab, you want to show your screen? I have made you co-host directly.
That's
Perfect. Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up. Perfect. Thank you.
It's okay now?
Yes, it's okay. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm thankful to you. To integrated pest management strategies, it is the title that given to us. And frankly speaking, I'm not an expert. I have no background of agriculture education, but during last 2 years and sometime earlier, I've been studying agriculture as my passion. So it was natural when I came to become secretary. It was natural for me to think on work on the problem of our cotton. And this was the situation of. I'm sharing a second slide. I think it is visible. So being a secretary of South Punjab, the Secretary Agriculture, it was not very good condition in September 2020. And this slide shows, graph shows that after 2014 and 15, we were continuously on the declining side. And South Punjab, as I've shown, that produces 94% cotton of Punjab. And during 1920, we were able to store only 15.63 mon per acre. That was lowest ever, perhaps the lowest during last 30 years. And during 2020, area of cultivation, it was only 2.9 million acres in South Punjab. And it was very unfortunate and horrible situation for us. Under the condition, we decided to build this model of IPM. And in that situation, experts from Mansoor, Dr. Shafqat especially, IUB, Dr. Iqbal Badesha, BZU, CCRI, CRI, and our secretariat experts, they were all collected under one roof. They were requested to sit together and help us build IPM for 2021-22. After the building of the model, we were able to demonstrate that in the last year, when we established 120 IPM plots throughout the South Punjab on 496 acres of cotton. And frankly speaking, it was without any on these. They were private farmers. They supported us. They followed our advice. And before that, there were average 12 pesticides per season that were huge. And but after implementation, we requested.
I think Secretary Saab has dropped, maybe.
His connection dropped.
Yeah.
He's back.
There was internet.
Every
You need to share the screen again, please.
They also started reducing, came to us that we were able to reduce pesticide by 57%. It was great. And when we converted it into rupees, it was about 40 billion rupees. That's the saved to farmers.
Saqib Sahab, sorry to interrupt you. Saqib Sahab, आपकी slide नजर नहीं आ रही.
That we substituted.
Your slides are disappearing.
Am I audible, please?
Yeah, you're audible. Your screen is not showing up, please.
You need to share the screen again, please.
Okay, should I? Okay, I try it again. Just a minute. Just a minute. I think I need to reconnect, I feel.
You should just try the sharing the screen again, because when your connection drops, that sharing stopped as well.
Right, I am not seeing the link here.
Now, if you just look at the green arrow, share screen, under the bottom of your screen.
Actually, that is just out of. I think I should reconnect.
Okay.
Maybe you want to reconnect. That could be the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, am I audible, please?
Yes, please. Yes. So your screen is about to come.
Now is it okay?
It said double click to enter.
Is screen sharing?
So maybe Farooq, you try on your side, maybe.
Sir, I believe, the bandwidth there with you is, is not that broad. Maybe you can share your presentation with us. We can share it from here.
Let me send it to you.
Farooq Shah, you can, if you have this slide, just put it up.
I haven't got on the email, so that's the problem. So send me in the email. I should be able to.
अच्छा आपको मैं ईमेल में करता हूँ, ये मैंने ईमेल कर दिया। yes Farooq Shah, देखो आपको ईमेल आ गया होगा।
Waiting.
You're sharing now?
No, it's not coming up yet. Oh, yes, it's there. Yeah, please, DJ,
Yeah,
please start.
मैं निकल रहा हूँ क्या उसका नाम है घर के लिए, मैं गाड़ी खड़ी करके तो मैं वहाँ रावलडंग चौक पर खड़ा।
These were conditions that we were defining continuously, and after that we launched this IPM and we were able to get 34.22 months per acre from these. One average in Punjab was 19.64 or 68 that per acre during 2021. That
जतीर साहब आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। So maybe Farooq, if you share the screen, because this way maybe we save some of the bandwidth.
As I told you, this still haven't got your email, so I don't know which email you are sending to. I'll just message you as well. It's unlocked on the computer, so I can't use the WhatsApp one.
Okay, maybe I'll just take it.
I feel there's some glitch, some problem with the networking. There might be some problem.
So if you can continue without presentation, as Saqib said.
But I cannot share now.
So I think, sir, you continue and we'll put up on our screen. Just a second. We'll put this up on our site in a minute. Yes, you continue. You are saying there is a saving that farmers have made.
Okay.
Yes, please. Just we'll just put on our site the presentation.
Yeah, that's just received now.
If possible, otherwise I'll continue.
Yeah. Farooq.
Just 1 minute. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Should I continue without slides?
Yeah, you can continue, please. We are on the screen for the results from the IPM demos.
Farooq, can you make it bigger, Farooq? Yetit, please continue.
Can you see it now?
We can see it now.
Shafqat sir, maybe if you want to describe this one, because that's in collaboration with yourself. So I think there's a bandwidth problem. Saqib sir, and if you want to continue on this one, please.
Actually, it will be better that you describe himself.
Is there any problem there?
Saqib Sahab, maybe are you joining back again?
Maybe Khalid, if I go ahead with my presentation and then we take the Saqib sir later on.
Yeah, this
Good suggestion, I believe. In the meantime, we can sort it out. We can, ask him to come here and sit with us. We have a better,
Dr. Sahab, please उन्हें call कर लें आप ना साकिब साहब को अपने पास में.
Shukr साहब कर रहे हैं call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Farooq, please start then. So the next speaker is Mr. Dr. Farooq Shah. He's from Swansea University. He's has around 20 years of experience, or even 25, I would say. He's working in the biopesticides. And this presentation is together with Professor Tariq Bhatt Sahab, who's a professor of, I would say, biosciences at University of Wales. In Swansea University. So he's they've both been working together on developing these IPM strategies using biopesticides. So over to you, Dr. Farooq Shah Sahab. Dr. Farooq is also the founder member of RizBio. RizBio is a startup company developing some innovative solutions using biopesticides as one of the key innovations. So over to you, Dr. Farooq Shah Sahab, please.
Thanks very much, Khalid. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please. Do you mind making it because now we're seeing the all slides, so just making in a slideshow mode.
Yeah, can you see the slideshow now?
Yeah, please, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks to Khalid and everyone who is listening. So I will be presenting a brief overview of the integrated pest management in cotton and what are the challenges and what are the opportunities. So in my talk, I will be briefly touching on the issues which the insect pests and the current management practices we have within Pakistan, and especially focusing on the chemical insecticides. What is its efficacy? What is the problem with the application methods, and especially the development of resistance? And in terms of the opportunities, I'll be focusing on the three key areas. One is the insect pest monitoring, secondly, the biopesticides, and finally, the farm advisory and training needs in the Pakistan. So just to briefly describe the cotton problem, that in cotton, as Khalid has already mentioned, is a major crop in Pakistan. Over there are 10 major insect pests, both sucking pests and the bollworms, and they cause the direct feeding damage as well as they transmit different diseases, and economic losses can range from 10% to the total crop losses. The only solution or most widely used solution within Pakistan is that the people keep on using the chemical insecticides. And as I think Secretary was mentioning, there are about 12 different sprays being used in one cropping season. So that's the only solution. But the problem what we're facing is that there is no proper quality assurance within Pakistan, and we don't know that whether the chemical insecticides are working, effective, where the people are sourcing it. And also there is no proper kind of the education or awareness at what time they need to be used, how many times it needs to be used, and what with this excessive use of the insecticides, it has led to the insecticide resistance in many insect pests. So when the insect resistance comes over, what are the kind of the grower response, and what happens then? That because the farmer is spraying the insecticide, but the insect is still there, so the insecticide frequency started to increase, so they start to spray more and more, and the application rates start to increase. And then they say that the problem continue to increase. And that's not only problem for the crop itself, or because the crop is being facing losses or the insect problem is still there, but we are also exposing the operator or the growers or even the general population with a more risk of the insecticides. And the residues, insecticide residues, are increasing within the crop, within the fruit, and also in the groundwater as well. And as I mentioned, that this all leads to, again, then there is a more resistance and there is more pest, and the problem continues to grow, but both on the insect side and also on the environment side. So where is the evidence for this sort of the kind of the insecticide resistance, or that we are these claims? So you can see that even the FAO has claimed that Pakistan is one of the leading country in terms of the pesticides importer, and the insecticide is one of the major thing. And as Khalid already mentioned, that the cotton is one of the main crop which is using insecticides. We have had this very much published in the media as well. And I think 2018, the Sindh minister was saying that the people are using the insecticides which are banned, or the pesticides which are of substandard. So that's problem continue to increase. So with all the situation with insecticide issues, insecticide overuse, and insecticide resistance, what can we do to correct this situation? So I think the IPM is one of the solutions, but again, the IPM is a different section. So as I mentioned, that we will be focusing on a certain things, that what are the key things within the IPM we can do. And I think there are some other speakers after me who will be going into the further details into different techniques and the different methods to be used in the IPM, which will help us to overcome this problem. So some of the key areas which we can focus on is the monitoring. So it's the monitoring of insect pests. And the other one I will be focusing on is the biopesticides. And then there's a beneficial invertebrates, for example, parasites, predators. So that can be used to control the insect pests. So firstly, coming on to the monitoring. So monitoring is the key. So recently, I think working with Professor Shafqat Saeed Saab and some other universities, we did a survey in Pakistan, not only focusing on the cotton, but to get a general overview that what is the monitoring trend in Pakistan. And I think the most of the farmer was relying on the, what I would say is those were the dealers who were providing insecticide, or some extension workers to give them the awareness of the insect, monitoring of the insect and what is the insect problem they have. They do not have any sophisticated tools or kind of advanced tools to kind of monitor the insect pest. So if there is no monitoring taking place, then we are missing out at what is the actual pest problem within the crop, because the monitoring helps us to pick up the insect pest problem when it starts to grow. And it also allows us to go in and then timely apply. So one of the things which I earlier mentioned, that the people are using the insecticides without at the optimum time, or at the time when the pest is already established, so it is no more effective. So with the monitoring, we can use the insecticide when it is needed and where it is needed. And also it can help us that, for example, if a farmer is using an insecticide and after that is still picking up the insects, so then he can easily determine either the pesticide is not working or the pest has developed the resistance to this one. So in that term, I think the monitoring is one of the key things which we need to focus on. And there are different ways to do the monitoring. For example, in the West, we are using the drones and the remote sensing technology, and that is very much kind of in a broad area where you can have the hot spots, and then you can look at that, okay, where within a field, the farmer is picking up the insect problem. So that could be related to the signals coming from the plants, different than the plants' appearances. Also the data collected from the field wise. So I think in this case, there is quite a lot of work going on within Pakistan as well. And Savi has been taking the lead on this one, I believe. And they have been doing some work on the weekly crop health maps, and they are collecting that data and then converting it using the remote sensing models and from the satellite images. And in this way, they can map out the area that within which area or which part of the field is the pest problem is there. So that's kind of the thing, is that the key trigger that when they sees pest population building up in a certain area or in a certain part of the crop, so then they can give the advisory or a notice to the farmer that this particular area needs the treatment. So some of the, I think, statistics they are collecting is that is, so monitoring it's not only in terms of the insects, but you need to look at the other factors as well, that, okay, what other crops are there in the area, what is the temperature, and you kind of scanning the whole crop or the whole region. And in this way, you can start to get a better picture. But as I said, that this is kind of the remote sensing using the satellite and drone technologies. But what we can do on the kind of the field level, or for farmers which are very smallholder, they don't have the access to these access technologies. So there, the layers on the traps comes very handy. And here in the UK and in the West, the use of the pheromones, use of the monitoring layers. My own company is involved in developing the layers, and I think Professor Owen Jones will be speaking afterwards me, so he will be one of the key person who is developing the different layers. So the idea is that I think I've discussed in a previous meeting as well. Previously, the farmer used to use the trap crops, and the trap crop was where the insect pest was brought in and then treated. So now the idea is that instead of using the trap crops, we are using the layers of the signals from the crops or to the chemicals to which the insect pest responds. So we use them as a layer, and then there's a sticky card on which the insects are captured, and they can be then used to see that how much is the pest there, what sort of the distribution within the field. And again, as I mentioned, that if we are doing it after the application of the insecticide, then we can see that how much is the insecticide is effective, and what sort of the resistance is being developed. So with the layers, one of the advantages, because it's kind of, I would say, it's kind of an active monitoring, because we are drawing the pest out of the crop towards that layer and towards that sticky card. So you start to see the insect pest before it is visible within the field, or when you are kind of going through and it's already increased the threshold level. So again, that's sort of a combination we need to be looking at. So that sort of a technology, that sort of the techniques or the tools can easily be employed by very small farm holders. It doesn't require too much of the kind of the technology to be employed. All you need is a layer and some sort of the sticky trap or monitoring trap to monitor the population of the insect pests. These layers and traps can also be used for not only for the monitoring purposes, but also for the different control strategies. For example, it can be used for the mass trapping. It can be used for the mating disruption. So then there's a less number of the next generations, or for lure and kill strategy. Lure and kill strategy is where you bring the pest to a certain area of the crop and you only treat that area rather than treating the whole of the farm, or a push or pull strategy where you are either pushing the insect out of the crop or pulling out of the crop. So that's again in combination with the lures and with the different monitoring techniques. So these monitoring tools can be used for the early warning system as well as for the control practices. But again, the research we done earlier this year, there was a very minimal use of the insect monitoring, especially the insect pheromones, or in terms of the lures or the sticky traps. There is some use of the mating disruptions, but not that much of the lures in terms of the mass trapping or for the sticky cards. Even I was surprised to see that it was quite difficult to buy these products in Pakistan, and you have to import it from China or from other countries. So now moving on to the next thing. So you've done the monitoring, you know that the mass trapping, so that one of the techniques you can do. But the other key aspect is that apart from the using the away from the insecticide, chemical insecticide, is the development of the biopesticides. Again, within the biopesticides, there are a number of things. For example, we can use the semiochemicals, which I just mentioned, pheromones and pheromones, which you can use for mass trapping or the mating disruptions. But the area which we are focusing on is the microorganisms, so developing the fungi and bacteria to develop them as a biopesticides. Here in the West, the biopesticides are being used now kind of on a large scale, because most of the chemical, over 70%, has been banned, and most of the food crops are using the different types of the entomopathogenic fungi or the bacteria to control the insect pest. But again, in Pakistan, we have been working with the Shakwa Saeed Saab on the development of biopesticides. So we are training them in terms of the how to produce the biopesticides, and also I think some work is going on within the Faisalabad University as well. So that's sort of the area we need to focus on, that how we can develop the local production of the biopesticides and then use it either in combination with insecticides or on its own. And one of the approach of using the biopesticide is that you use a sublethal doses of, for example, 10% of the insecticide in combination with the biopesticide, and that helps to increase the efficacy. Because one of the criticism we get is that biopesticides are slow, they take time to kill, but the studies have shown that once the insect is infected with any entomopathogens, they stop feeding, so there is no further damage to the crop. So similarly, there are other plant extracts like a neem garlic, which is again the origin or commonly available in Pakistan. So there needs to be more work done on these sort of the things, that where the commercial products needs to come out, and then we need to be using the different sort of the products which can complement either the biopesticides or reduce the use of the chemical insecticides. In terms of, as I just mentioned, in terms of the biopesticides, Secretary was mentioning some data that they have started to use some biopesticides, but these are still the demonstration trials. But looking at the data, the biopesticides within Pakistan is accounts only 1 to 3% within the Pakistan and the South Asia, and that's mostly in the India as well. When I last was in discussion with the plant production department, I think there's only 7 biopesticides registered in Pakistan. And I'm not sure that how many of these are for insecticide purposes, but still there is no kind of a final biopesticide policy within Pakistan, although they are working very hard on this one and they're trying to develop a biopesticide policy, which would be very good to increase the use of and to promote biopesticide in Pakistan. As I already mentioned, in Western countries, there is a great shift now. The people are moving away from the chemical insecticides towards the biopesticides. And so we need to work on more on the biopesticides. As I mentioned, there is quite a lot of papers coming out on the biopesticides. We are showing the efficacy of the biopesticides, but there is no clear-cut policy that how these biopesticides can be registered and marketed. So again, that's plant protection, and within the academia, we need to work together on this one and to develop a policy where we can promote the local production of the biopesticides. And then that would be in combination with the monitoring and with the other tools, would be a good way of implementing the IPM within cotton and other crops. So finally, I will go on to the farm advisory and training, because that's again coming from the research work and the work we have done with the University. That farmers are not that much aware of what are the different options available. So they are used to the advice coming from either from the extension department or from the dealers. So if it is coming from the dealers, it is unbiased because it is biased because they will be promoting their own products. And in this way, farmer has got no choice. And then farmer will been told that if you are not going to use any insecticide, you're going to have the total crop failure. So they kind of see that, okay, one farmer has used it and the other one is kind of continue to use. So I'm glad to see that the secretaries are mentioning about the demonstration trials, because that's the way forward. If we can demonstrate on the farmer's field that the different new products which is coming out of the research or the different techniques in terms of the biopesticides, monitoring, they are working, then the farmers start to engage and they can see from themselves that yes, they have used the products. It is not some sort of kind of fancy lab experiment. It is in the real side kind of the environment. And then the people will be more kind of buying into those sort of the techniques and methods. And then there is a sharing of the best practices. So if we have developed some technology or some method, whether it's a combination of the cultural, biological, and different practices, so that needs to be kind of shared with the other farmers so that we can start to kind of picking up on the best practices. And the other key thing is what data sharing and early warning of the, sorry for this mistake, I think I was just typing, it's not early warning of insect, it's early warning of insect pests. So the platforms like Savi, when they are in touch with so many farmers or the extension workers, when they are picking up insect pest problem in a certain area, in a certain farm, so that information can be used in an unbiased way to let the farmers know that there is a build-up of insect pest population in a certain area, and then there's a likelihood that how it's going to be shift taking place. And one common indicator is that we can see that within Pakistan is that when you move more towards the south, then there is an increase in temperature. So insect pest population starts in one area, and with the temperature or wherever the crop is more intensity, it starts to grow into that sort of the area. So I think that needs to be a bit more kind of used within Pakistan so that the people can have access to the unbiased information and they can rely on that information and then take actions accordingly. Then there is need to do some sort of training courses where the farmers can use how to best use these new tools coming out, whether it is the satellite and drone technologies, monitoring tools, or the biopesticides. So they are comfortable with using these sort of the technologies and can implement on their farms. And finally, I think the key thing is that the local production of the monitoring tools and the biopesticides, because what is the current situation within Pakistan with the lack of the foreign reserves, it is not sustainable that we keep on importing these products. And secondly, that imports is not kind of within the reach of each farmer. So smallhold holders, cost-wise will be too expensive. And secondly, these sort of things is that can be easily be produced within Pakistan with the expertise which we have got within different universities and research institutes within Pakistan. So I think we need to capitalize on these resources and the technical skills, and then start to build up our own kind of the critical mass and the production facilities to start working on this sort of area. So with this one, I'll conclude. So is there any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Farooq. And I know it's such an interesting topic. And if I open up question, there'll be a lot of questions, but I know we're running out of time. Maybe there is slot for one question. So any particular question anybody want to ask? Maybe take one question. Otherwise, we will.
कह रहे हैं कि सबसे ज़्यादा इसने काम किया इसकी शक्ल से लग
नहीं, sorry. Any question here?
So what's the question?
So maybe I have a question here.
May I ask a question? May you allow me a question?
Gigi, please. Yes, please.
Sir, very nice talk. I mean, you very rightly said that the biopesticides or, must be locally produced. So what are the possibilities of, say, making pheromone trap in Pakistan? Because we are importing for pink bollworm from Japan for a very long time. So what are the essentially ingredients required, and is it possible to make in Pakistan?
I think it can be easily made because most of the, yes, you are getting from the Japan, those mating disruption. And I think Dr. Owen Jones will be speaking more in detail on that one. But I'm aware that most of the products which are even being used here in the UK, the active ingredients is coming from the countries like China, India, and other countries. So we have got the chemical scientists in Pakistan. We have got the chemical analysts. So again, that's kind of the thing that can be done. So those sort of the chemicals can be produced locally. And that's all we need to have is a quality assurance, because we need to make sure that the chemicals which have been extracted, they are good quality. And other example is, for example, sticky cards. That's not kind of a rocket science that can easily be made within Pakistan. But even this, I was struggling to get the yellow and blue sticky cards in Pakistan for one of our projects. So these sort of things, I think the focus needs to be there. But in terms of short answer is that yes, it is possible. We have got the expertise, and we've got quite a good university, especially in the Karachi. I think that's the HEJ Institute of Chemical Ecotoxicology. They do have the capabilities to synthesize chemicals of a very high standard. And the key thing and I think Dr. Owen Jones will stress on this thing, that is the chemicals need to be of a good quality so that we do not have kind of good kind of the reaction from the insects. That's good. But everything is possible in Pakistan. I think it's just that we just gone with the easy option of just importing it from, say, China, from other countries, and there we lose the quality control. Biopesticide, I'm expert on this one. We have shown the technology, and I think in one of the projects with Multan MNS University, we have produced locally, and we use it on a certain scales. And I think Professor Shakasai will confirm on this one that we recently done a trial that we have a product.
Sorry to add, but you very rightly said, unfortunately, the biopesticide policy, their approval, their registration, their quality control, I mean, it's lying with the Department of Plant Protection for many, many years with the federal government, and still, it has not been approved. So that is one of the stumbling block, for any private sector to come in when there is no policy, there is no guidelines, and there is no set rules that how you can go about. So the easiest way for them and then is to import.
No, but in that case, when we have the discussion import-wise, import is only possible if that product is already been used for the same crop, for the same pest. But what I have heard about Pakistan policy, that if there's an indigenous strain, then it is fast-track registration. So although it's still they are developing the policy, but you're right. We need to have the policy on the biopesticides, because once we know that, okay, what's up, then companies like myself or any other companies or the local production can go into that one and then start producing within Pakistan. And in terms of the production wise, I think the cost of production is around 10 to 20% cheaper in Pakistan as compared to importing even from China as well.
True.
Thank you so much. I think we'll go in more details later on in the discussion. This is such an interesting topic. I said we are running out of time. So, and I know since I think the Pakistan is we have the issue with the foreign exchange. So if we could produce something locally, this would be fantastic. And I think there's a lot of debate around the policy corridor. So I think it's the best time now going back to Saqib Atil Saab so that he can guide us where is the government policy in terms of taking these important initiatives back on track. So over to you, Saqib Saab. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you again. We bothered you, and thank you again for your time and appreciate your interest in supporting this dialogue. So over to you, Saqib Saab.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry there was some problem in connection. So I'm here again. As far as first, I would like to address this issue, policy regarding biopesticides. Actually, it was last year we made a lot of connection. We requested the federal government again and again, and finally there is a policy document came front that was about biopesticides as well as IPM. So that is in the process. Hopefully, next meeting, I hope during the next meeting it may be approved. But that is in the process. The government and experts on the side of the government and justice, they have realized that pesticides are not only the solution, but they are being used as a necessary evil because we did not have policy, did not have mechanism for registration of pesticide. That is in the process. I'll go back to my presentation. A few slides. Khalid had asked me for that.
Yeah, please allow me to upload the presentation of Secretary.
Oh, yes. I have made you the co-host. You can.
Please make him admin.
Yeah. Khalid, please allow me for upload the presentation of Secretary.
I have made you co-host. You can.
You can upload. Dr. Shafqat, go ahead.
But still disable me. I cannot upload.
So it says co-host. You are the co-host. Asif Saab
Can you say it?
Perfect.
I have shared it now, so if you want to go ahead with that.
Please go to the first slide. First or second slide. First slide, please. The beginning.
Pyramid wali pe. Go to the pyramid wali. Farooq, it disappeared.
Just 1 second. I'm just trying to sort this out.
Maybe the technology is not good friend with us today.
Yeah. Technology.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can ready to see. Next slide, please.
Farooq, next one.
Next one, please.
I've done it on the third slide now.
Thank you. Next.
The first one. On our end, is showing up the first slide.
The technology is really not working because
maybe this is a heat up in the UK.
Okay, so let me download this.
Only see one slide.
Dr. Khalid, please, if you allow me, I can upload from here. From my computer.
आप जिस नाम से हैं, मैंने उसी से आपको किया हुआ है. ये देखो ना शफकत, आप जिस नाम से ना, उसी को I made you the co-host. Shafqat, yeah. I made you the co-host. Let me make you.
Okay, let me try one more time now.
Remove co-host, and then I'm going to make you host, co-host.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, now we can see it.
Can second slide?
Yes, please. Next one.
It's good now. We can see it now. So again, I would like to tell why were we forced to go for IPM during 2021 crop. Actually, during this graph shows that since 2014-15, our cotton production as well as cotton sowing was declining, area was declining, and during 2019-20, our average crop average yield was 15.63 mon per acre. That was very low because farmers were unable to get any profit from the crop. So next year, during 2021, the area further declined, and it declined to up to 2.9 million acres in South Punjab. That was lowest ever during the last 30 years. So it was huge problem for us, and a 20% reduction was alarming. Next, please. These were the situation that I requested experts from Mansoura, Ayub Islamic University Balpur, BZU, CCRI and CRI to sit together in one roof and build IPM model for 2021-22 crop. Presently, we were able to demonstrate that IPM on 120 plots in different areas of South Punjab with 496 acres of cotton. Earlier, we had discovered that there were averagely 12 pesticides per season, but due to this IPM, and lately we requested Mansoura to make third-party validation, how much it was successful, and it was surprising for us that not only on those IPM demos, but also the farmers in the surrounding areas, they also followed the suggestion, and we were able to reduce the use of pesticide by 57%. And that if we calculate that convert that into money, that was about saving of rupees 40 billion. I think it is a. I think you have go on ahead. Yes. Please go to back slide. Yeah. Thank you very much. And this resulted into that we were able to get 34.22 mon per acre. That was against average of Punjab 19.68 mon per acre, 63 mon per acre during 21-22, and maximum yield during 2000, that was after 2011, 12, 2014, 15, when we got the maximum cotton, that was 25.29 mon per acre. So IPM plots of demo plots that resulted in better crop yield production than even the best crop results in Punjab. We also requested the university to calculate the return on investment, and this was again very heartening for us that on conventional plots there was the return on investment was rupees 1.69 against 1 rupee, while the IPM demos produced rupees 3.63 against 1 rupee. It proved that it was not only beneficial, we were able to lower the input cost, we were able to get the optimum yield and better return on investment. This helped us, our experiments helped us to build a slightly better model that you can see on the screen. With our experiences, we found that permanent advisory was not, if you start from the bottom left, that were flexible bi-weekly advisories were more fruitful than one permanent advisory or production plan for the whole year. Then we also took other steps like destroying colonies of whitefly or alternative hosts, destroying leftover Greek cotton balls, quality seed variety yield. We were not able to get that, but still we're working on that. We should get quality cotton seed that can produce 30 mon per acre or more, and strengthening cotton defense mechanism, then integrated nutrition management, balanced watering, then biopesticides, PB robs, traps, ETL and pest forecasting system. We are also putting that into review meetings that these should be changed to some extent. Then effective pesticide. When we talk about pesticide, generally we find that pesticides, when we chemically analyze them, they are very good, they are up to the mark, but when we use in the field, they are not able to control the pest because the behavior, the resistance has been created in the pests, so these pesticides were not useful. Anyway, we know this year we have set up 199 demos in Punjab, more than 1,600 acres, and some NGOs are also following our lead. I hope as soon as next month, we will request again Mansoura to go for the Mansoura as well as other universities to go for third-party validation. Next, please. This slide shows the figure again figure that during 2021 we were able to get cotton cultivated on 20% less area than the past year, and we were able to get 4.4% more cotton than the last year. That means we were able to get 25% increase in production on the almost same area. And why it happened? Because our average yield was also 25.6% higher than the last year, which was very interesting. If you look into the three divisions, you can see the DG Khan division. That is the two top division, Multan DG Khan division. They were able to implement IPM very successfully, so they were also able to get huge jump in their average yields. Next, please. What we learned from our experiment, that there are three main principles of IPM for cotton. First was save cotton plant from stress. Basically, we learned that you all people know, all experts know that cotton is a perennial plant, and whenever we put it in under any stress, it starts fruit shedding, and in some cases death is the result. So whatever stress, whether it is from the water scarcity, water excess, nutrition shortage, or even excess heat and abrupt climate changes. This year we have seen that initially when we started cotton sowing, there was heat waves that burnt cotton, sown cotton, grown, even I said that was sown, and when it was just 2-3 inches, the heat waves destroyed actually 1,000 cotton on 1,000 of acres. And then what happened? There was rain and sudden fall in temperature. Again, that resulted into wilting. And then we can see that if there is the pressure of stress of pest, again cotton shed is fruiting. And when we use excessive pesticides, again that is the same. So these are the major issues in cotton stress. So we developed this, that the first principle should be that whatever situation is, we should try our best to not let the cotton go under any kind of stress. Second principle that we learned that pyrethroids should only be used as last line of defense against pests. Generally in conventional model, we see whenever there are 2 or 3 pests, our farmers start application of pesticide, and that results in shedding and other problem. So we developed the principle that during the first, at least for the first 50 days, there should be no use of pesticide. And that result we found that for the first time in Punjab, history of Punjab, we were able to get 0 recording of the production. Generally, our cotton comes to market during late August or September, early September. But last year, we were able to get cotton from Punjab during July. And again this year, our early cotton started to come to market during the last week of June. And now that is in the market despite heavy rains, sudden rains, but still we are getting the crop. And then we substituted with IPM methods, not only botanical biopesticide, but other methods that we'll discuss later. And we also found that when we found that the 2 big problems. One is pink bollworm and other is whitefly. And when we start treatment of pink bollworm, we have to use at least 2 to 3 applications. We have to make 2-3 applications of parathrites to control it, and after that, during that the process, we kill all predators. And once that happens and we start, the whitefly start attacking on our cotton crop, we don't find the predators, and we have to rely upon completely on the pesticide. But unfortunately, most of the available chemistries were failing due to pest resistance. We also found that if we intervene parathride with botanicals or with number of biopesticides, it helps us not only to support the predators but also to plant. Then we also, during some experiments, we observed that mixing of botanicals with parathrides gave promising results, especially in case of pink bollworm. The third principle that I suggest that off-season pest management. Generally, when crop ends, we say, okay, now let us see the next season when start. But we realized that a lot of pink bollworm larva goes with the sticks, goes with the balls. So it was important that we handle that problem earlier due to diapause behavior of the pink bollworm. So we worked a lot in the field. We went to the houses of the people where our farmers generally collect cotton sticks for the whole year to burn as a fuel. So we visited them, their houses. We requested them, and we also helped them to remove cotton, unopened cotton ball from the cotton sticks, so that both ends can be met. Then we also discovered that whitefly has very intelligent behavior. They build colonies on alternative hosts, and whenever cotton crop goes under some stress and whitefly attacks, then it becomes very difficult to save the cotton. That whitefly produce honeydew, and honeydew result into blackening of cotton. And interestingly, we have found with the help of the experts that if we use surf with water, that can clean the plant leaves, and they start working to build. They start working to provide food to plant as well as the fruiting parts. Similarly, we have also discovered that when due to intervening crops or weeds or alternative host, many pests, if they don't get a break in their life cycle, they continue to increase, and when cotton comes, they attack heavily. Next, please. These are some Ipm strategies that we found very useful, and we have been using some in the field. First is genetical, that we all know that BT cotton is also the result of genetical manipulation, triple gene, Bollgard 3, all kind of these things, they are Ipm strategy, and they have given very good result in the past. But in Pakistan, we found that BT, the cotton, after so many years, is not so much useful. Earlier, BT1 especially, because the expression of toxic element that is not working properly, or that has been diluted. The next is agronomical, like when to sow the cotton, especially. We have seen the early cotton helps the pest to continue their life cycle for the pest, and when seasonal crop comes, the colonies are built on the early cotton, and we suffer a lot. Our even seasonal cotton suffers a lot. We have found that the best sowing time is around April 1st, that is within 10 days, 1st or 15 days, 20. And if we go for cotton sowing before that, we get early cotton, but that is not good for the seasonal. Similarly, if our farmer continue to sow the cotton even in May and June, but the June sown cotton has not given us good results. So we ask the people, we tell them, our advisories go that whole cotton should be planted within April. Generally, we get 80 to 90% cotton sown due to the period, but still, the only 2-3% early cotton, 5-6% late cotton, that is not very good in production and yield as well. The yield in the early cotton is good, but that puts bad impact on the seasonal cotton. Then there are a problem with us that when we started working on the Ipm, for the first step, we studied most of the, tested most of the pesticides on whitefly. It was strange that most of them were failing to kill them. The mortality rate was much below than the government approved. And after that, we requested Dr. Shaukat Saeed and Mansura to help us to build to test different plant extracts. There were about 50 or plus plants that they studied during the period and discovered 6 or 7, like the 6 or 7 plants, the extract of whose was good for to control whitefly. For example, Cortuma, neem, tobacco. These were the main 3 plants, and we also found that other 3-4 methods were like hing, ak, and moringa as well. So initially we started with the 3, and later we, when we required, we requested them to include any other ingredient. So this worked, the solution mixture of these worked very well. Similarly, we found that moringa is not only useful for to control whitefly, but also provide a lot of micronutrients to the cotton crop. Similarly, we did not experiment with the microbials, but there are a lot of, earlier I was listening to Farooq Shah, that there are a lot of biopesticides. Even Mansura is working, Sharate Shabdas is working on that, Mansura is working on that, other universities as well, to produce fertilizers as well as pesticides from microbes. Then biochemicals or semiochemicals, they like sticky yellow cards for whitefly. They are very good. We have seen very good results in the field. Pheromone traps, BB ropes for the pig bollworm. They have also given the good results. We also found that mixing of botanicals with parathyroid, that also gives very good results. Then there are some cultural methods. For example, we have observed that after rain, there is a decrease in the whitefly. This helped. This forced us to go for experiment with the simple water, and it was very interesting that even simple spray of simple water can control whitefly to some extent and give us good results. Because when the whitefly, adult whitefly, falls to the ground, our predators start their working and they eat them up, so their population decreases. Similarly, plucking of the pink bollworm infested flowers can also delay the pesticides and even suppress the population of pink bollworm to damage cotton hugely. Similarly, uprooting of mealybug infested plants. Initially today, when I was in field and I was looking at in the whole field, there was only 1 plant. So I asked the farmer to uproot that. So because the other option was to use the pesticide, so we avoided. And these kind of practices, we are not only promoting, our extension staff is also working on that. Similarly, when the cotton ends, we request the people whether rotovate or cotton sticks. If not, then at least pluck the unopened balls, which give place to larvae of pink bollworm. Due to its diapause behavior, next year cotton suffers a lot. Next, please. Then we have found, and we all know that IPM is not only economical, profitable, but also environment friendly. Especially, it helps us to revive our ecosystem. Then, when we use less chemicals, we get less pollution in our air and soils. And when we have been facing abrupt climate changes during the last 3 years, I have found not a single whole year plan can work, because we don't know when the rain would start, when the heat would start, when the temperature would fall or rise. So these problems, the cotton plant, as we all know, is very delicate. So these abrupt changes impact not only the cotton plant health, but also its production. But when we go for IPM, it helps. Even today, I was looking at IPM demo, and I was surprised that the cotton, the people they are still using conventional method, that is not a very good condition. But IPM plants were in very good condition. So I feel that IPM can help us to help our cotton to face the abrupt climate changes as well. And then it is workers friendly, safer for field worker. Naturally, when we go for these practices, less without a pesticide, So there is less chances that they will suffer from the pesticide side effects. More importantly, it is safer for the cotton pickers, because this last year we found we got some balls unopened and open and sent to our lab, and to discover that there were a lot of pesticide residues, especially in the cotton balls, in fiber and seed. So you can see when the ladies, when the field worker pick the cotton, they get poison in their fingers, and that affect their women, then they affect their fetus, they affect them, the kids, similarly, they affect their bodies. So IPM is not only environment friendly, but also healthy for the field workers. Next, please. So without going into further details, I would go for a few recommendations. We know that organic agriculture is spreading, but it is slowly. Though this year it has grown 300% in the global market, but still there are a lot of the problem with the generally we hear and we experience that it reduces our production by 34%. So IPM is the method that can handle not only production demand as well as the maximum levels of residues. Then the next we found that as earlier it was being discussed that is there any problem?
Mic band karo.
Okay. Then we also found, as earlier it was being discussed, that our extension staff, our experts from the government side as well from the private companies, they have very negative attitude towards the IPM practices. I think it has its own reason, because our young students, the officers, when they come from the university, generally focus is made on the use of pesticides. Most of the researches, they are sponsored. So naturally, those companies who are in biocides or IPM, they are very few. But most of the companies in Pakistan, if I talk about Pakistan, 99.9% companies, they sell pesticides. So not only those companies, their experts, but even our government side extension staff, they have very negative attitude to this. So we need to change that. Then our investment in insect resistance management, I'm unable to find a single institution in Pakistan where insect resistance management is being taught properly or being researched properly. So the companies, private companies, as well as other stakeholders should invest in research of the IRM so that we can move ahead. Then investing in biopesticide, that is very, again, I will go that we need to go for the policy making, that we can build, we prepare rules, we can prepare the methods for biopesticide registration, biopesticide preparation. These all things are to be done at the policy level. Then again, we have in Punjab, we have 11 laboratories that produce biological cards for predator. They are very few because this year we have sown cotton on more than 3.5 million acres. So these laboratories are not sufficient. Our private companies should come forward to invest in biological predator cards and sell them to the people on the affordable prices. So this can help not only our cotton crop, but also the people, but also the women and agriculture. Thank you very much. Any question if there is?
Thank you so much, Saqib. So you have really impressed us, mashallah. You have a very insight to the IPM and also knowing the sector from inside out as well. So this is quite impressive. And I think the take-home message, a couple of things for me to note here. The issue around MRL, so that plays a significant role. So the pesticide residues staying in the food, and you will be surprised to hear that a few years ago, Nestle in Pakistan was trying to export their milk, and they could not get their milk exported because they found the traces of pesticides in the cotton seed coming through the milk to the baby formula. So that's a whole story. And again, I think the challenges around where the pesticides have built up a bit of a nuisance in the farmer's mind. You apply it, you see the killing of the pest straight away. And biopesticide take a bit of time. And again, some kind of if you look at the bigger picture, so what is best for the environment? So biopesticide is a solution. And also the debate around net zero emissions, which is now the Pakistan have to meet those criteria, and especially the cotton crop, which is export crop from Pakistan. So I was actually 2 weeks ago at the BCI conference in Sweden. The whole debate around regenerative agriculture and this natural resource management. So IPM fits really well. So I'll just ask any question here, please. Anyone?
May I ask Dr. Khalid?
Yes, please.
If you allow.
Yes, please. That's all.
Yes. Honorable Secretary Sahab, Saqib Atil, I really salute your passion and your devotion for the cotton sector in the South. But I mean, if you, with my, working for last 40 years in this sector, if you dig out the slides of Rana Naseem Saab in early 90s or Arif Nadeem Saab in, early 2000, they are almost, with little bit changes, are 100% same. Same working, same, problem with the pink bollworm, with the sticks, with the whitefly, with parathyroids, early sowing. My question is that why the public sector, which is should be a good regulator and good facilitator, unable to bring this as a routine? Instead of sometime a man come with a passion, things go right for certain period, you are transferred, and then everything collapse. So I am looking this thing, this roller coaster things for last 30 or 35 years plus, and our production is going down. That, from 14 million bales we have come down. Still, you are saying 57% more. But with the less area and with the rain and everything, we will again come up with 8 or 9, I can pretty sure. So I just want to ask a question, a mental issue that why, things are not moving the way it should, the way you tell, the way I have a wish list. So, but we are still moving in a circle. So this is my, sort of a comment, and also I want to have your thoughts on how can we make it to put in the system in such a manner like sugarcane. The biological control is going on since 1970s. 28 factories are making it, and they are not spraying. So they embedded in the system. But in cotton, we are unable to have such system of IPM since the 80s.
Thank you very much, Yusuf sir. Over to Secretary sir.
Yeah, thank you. You're right that this is that there is nothing new in this whole presentation, but unfortunately, we know that 80% pesticide in Pakistan is sold for cotton crop. So there are the problem is not only with this IPM with the system, it is overall there are big interests. So you're right, when some person with a passion comes, things start changing, but we were unable to systemize. This year, what we are doing, we have included experts from different universities, different institutions in our team, and we are building the system for future people, for future generation. We're working on these things and communicating to the federal government. But there are a lot of problems. I would not like to go into detail what those problems, but simple problem is, we prepared our first act regarding pesticide 1970. Since then, there are not big changes. We are working on those changes as well. This was being earlier, this pesticide and everything was being, even cotton was being handled from the federal side. After 18th Amendment, agriculture was made part of the provincial governments, provinces, but some part was still retained by the federal government. Now it is, we can say that the duality, dichotomy, whatever you say, we need to make them at one place, whether provincial government should work on them or federal government. I would go for the federal government because pesticide they are imported. So the system should be built by the federal government by ignoring the problem or bringing some change in the constitution or whatever. So there is a problem with the law, with the constitution, with the separation of power as well. These are three major problems. And fourth is definitely the interest of the stakeholders, especially the pesticide companies, and those companies have some very powerful people with them. Still, we are trying our best, and I hope this year we can build a system. Last year we worked on that, and even went to Islamabad. I convinced the people sitting on the helm of affairs, and they agreed that this has to be followed. And this year experiment is being made on recommendation of the federal government. They are also working. Our commissioner Cotton is also in touch with us. Our secretary, federal secretary, is in touch with us. So I hope this year and last year experiment and this year results would help us to build some system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary Saab, for a detailed answer. And I think this is a continuous debate, and it's not going to sort of a one-off solution is not a solution itself. So research needs a continuous support, and I'm really glad your support to the universities and research is commendable. And this is where Upsign is very keen to build those relationships, and so that we can continue our research. There's always going to be unknowns, and this climate change is the biggest beast in the room. So climate change doesn't help us. We have to have on our toes in terms of finding solutions. So I think it's a good time now to move on to our next speaker. So I'll move on to our next speaker, Dr. Owen Jones. He's an expert on IPM and biopesticides, worked a lot in countries around Brazil and around the world as well. So over to you, Professor Owen Jones.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to present a few slides this morning. But following on from the debate so far, I think that the bottom line is things have to change, because there are no new molecules coming from the big agrochemical companies. The generic pesticides are all going to fail eventually because of resistance. So we're going to run out of alternatives. And so therefore we have to embrace IPM as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to focus on the semiochemical side of things today, because that's really what I've been involved with for the last 40 years or so. Can we have the next slide? Yes. So first of all, just referring to detection and monitoring using pheromones. The next slide. Now, something which hasn't been mentioned this morning is the early detection and the presence of insects that could be of concern. For instance, fall armyworm, Spodoptera frugiperda. I don't know if it's already in Pakistan, but it's certainly in the Indian subcontinent, and it's actually reached China as well. And it's a very invasive species and can do a lot of damage, and in many cases spoil IPM programs. And I would say the same thing about boll weevil. Now, this is Anthronomus grandis, a beetle pest of the cotton bolls. It's a devastating pest in Brazil and in other Latin American countries, and they have to spend a lot of conventional pesticides to control it, because the BT traits obviously are not going to work, because it's a coleopteran, it's a beetle instead of a caterpillar. And I know from personal experience in Brazil, they spray 30 times per season with malathion, and that causes all sorts of problems in terms of worker exposure and contamination of water in aquifers and so on. So I will be putting out some traps to make sure that boll weevil is not arriving in Pakistan, and if it does, to eliminate it as quickly as possible. And therefore the early warning of its presence is really important. And these are just some of the other uses of pheromone-baited monitoring traps. detecting infestation levels. This has already been mentioned by Farooq, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating. These traps are there 24 hours a day. They're going to pick up an infestation at a very low level much sooner than somebody doing crop observations, walking through the crop and looking for caterpillars. So you really get an early warning of what's going to happen. Also, the distribution of the pest throughout the crop, throughout the locality, throughout the season, because they can change during the season. And also, where are the sources of infestation? Very often in cotton, pink bollworm, for instance, is much more of a problem around areas where you're doing the ginning, because people are not really using enough sanitation methods, then you tend to get localization of infestations, which in the following season become the new sources of infestation. Timing of insecticide application, the need for and when to apply insecticides, you can really determine based on trap catches. And then at the end of it, have your treatments worked, because you can assess that also by the number of insects which you're catching following the infestation. Next slide, please. So, this is really very well established as a practice on a global basis. And Peter Witzgal in 2010 reckoned that there were over 20 million monitoring lures sold globally, which equates to about 10 million hectares being monitored using pheromone systems. And now it's probably over 30 million by today. Here in Europe, at least, the legislation is influencing its further adoption very greatly. The EU's Sustainable Use Directive actually mentions monitoring systems and the need for their greater use in order to reduce the amount of pesticide that's employed in agriculture. And some individual countries, like France, for instance, is pushing this agenda much more strongly than in other countries. They want to reduce the amount of pesticide they use at least by 50% over the next 5 to 10 years. And they see the use of monitoring traps as being a key component in achieving that. But at the end of the day, it's still a diagnostic tool, the use of semiochemicals in traps. It's not a control system in itself. Control, as has been mentioned already this morning, you can do by one of three methods: mass trapping, lure and kill, or mating disruption. So in the next few slides, we will look at these in particular. So next slide, please. So control, first of all, with mass trapping. I have some experience of this employing sex pheromones, and this was with Spodoptera littoralis. I think you have a different Spodoptera species in Pakistan, Litura probably, or maybe another Spodoptera species. But it was possible to do mass trapping of Spodoptera in open field and in protected cropping with a reasonable number of traps, 8 traps per hectare, and reinforcing the borders with a higher density of traps. The average distance between the traps was about 40 to 50 meters. We still did population monitoring within the plots to make sure that things were not getting out of hand. And in this particular crop, which was watercress, there were 2 seasons. The autumn season from the end of August through to November, and then there's a second crop in the spring, March to July. And it was very successful indeed. And again, in covered crops, in protected cropping, 2 traps per 1,000 meters squared gave very good control of Spodoptera littoralis. Next slide, please. And this was the sort of trap that was being used in the watercress. You can see the watercress there in the background. And here on the right, you see the plastic bags full of moths that were caught in these traps. Each bag came from one single funnel trap. So it just shows you the biomass of insects that you can catch using this sort of trapping system. Next slide, please. There's some good examples also from the Indian subcontinent of the use of traps for mass trapping. The brinjal fruit and shoot borer has been studied quite effectively in terms of mass trapping, and these are the sort of traps that are used, either water traps or funnel traps with plastic bags underneath to catch the insects. And again, the number of traps per hectare you need is relatively small, and the time of putting them out in the field is very well worked out, 20 to 25 days after planting. And then you leave them there until the crop is harvested. And there's some good published papers on the use of mass trapping for this particular pest. And then next slide, please. And the pink bollworm, as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of mass trapping of pink bollworm that goes on, but at a density of about 12 traps per hectare, per acre, I'm sorry. I'm not totally convinced that mass trapping of males against pink bollworm is that effective, even though there's a lot of traps sold for this purpose. And the trap is a fairly simple trap. It's again a funnel trap with a plastic bag to catch the insects that you caught. The lure is placed underneath the lid of the trap and is protected therefore from heavy rain or direct sunlight as well to maintain the quality of the pheromone. That is a very popular use of traps, but I'm not convinced. I would have much more faith in mating disruption, as has been mentioned earlier today. So the concept is very simple. In nature, it's the female attracts males usually at night by releasing a plume of sex pheromone, which the male follows in order to find the female. Now, if you put out other dispensers releasing the same pheromone, then you have multiple plumes and it just confuses the males completely and prevents them from finding the females, prevents them from mating, and therefore prevents them from producing the next generation of larvae. So that's the concept. Next slide, please. How to dispense it. Pink bollworm was very successfully controlled using pheromones back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and then along came BT cotton, and it was very almost overnight the sale of mating disruption products went almost to zero, simply because the cry proteins in the BT cotton were so effective at killing all Lepidopteran species that were pests on cotton. But there have been, as was mentioned earlier, reports of the BT cotton being less effective on pink bollworm. And this really doesn't surprise me. As you probably know, the pink bollworm will feed on flowers, and the cry proteins are not expressed that heavily in petals, and therefore they were receiving from very early on a low dose of the cry proteins, which is a sort of chronic exposure to the killing agent, and therefore it's not surprising that resistance built up. So what can growers do? There are a few options left in the toolbox these days. And I think there's an opportunity to go back to the wide-scale use of pheromones as opposed to the wide-scale use of conventional insecticides. and mating disruption for me is very much a possibility. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll show you some of the experience that I've had with mating disruption of pink bollworm. There should be another picture that should come in there. There we are. This is an extruded polymer which contains the pheromone. There's 2 grams of pheromone in each of these polymer bands. It's extruded as a tape, but has a slit introduced into it during the extrusion process so that you can open it up into a band and place it over the terminal shoot of the cotton plant, so that as the plant grows, it lifts the position of the pheromone dispenser. Now you need 250 of these per hectare, 100 per acre. The amount of active ingredient in there is 40 grams per hectare, 160 milligrams of pheromone per dispenser. It lasts 3 to 4 months, which covers the main period of activity of the pink bollworm on the cotton, or the damaging period, as it were. And the active ingredient is a 2-component pheromone, which is actually, even though it looks a bit complicated, it can be synthesized relatively easily, and especially nowadays using a new catalytic process, which will reduce the cost of it quite substantially. So as Farooq said earlier, there are companies that offer just the active ingredient, so that local formulation of it into a band like this would certainly be feasible in Pakistan. So next slide, please. This is the area where I had greatest experience of using this technology. This was in Egypt, in the Al Fayoum area, which is this area here. It's an irrigated area, irrigated from the Nile. It's quite a large agricultural area with a lot of cotton planted. It's 600,000 fidans, which is about 600,000 acres. And in the 1990s, this band, which was the frustrate PPW, and PB rope, the one that you've been using in Pakistan, was used. About 50% each was used. They're both applied at pin square, and then you get trap shut down during the whole of the season. To know that your product is working, you put monitoring traps into the treated area, and if you've got 0 catches of males, it indicates to you that your treatment is really being effective, to the point that males cannot find their way to a monitoring trap, and therefore you assume that they cannot find their way to females either. And what was found was that the boll damage was much less than even with insecticides in the control plots. So this was used very successfully during most of the 1990s until BT cotton came along. So next slide, please. This is the PB rope, which you may or may not be familiar with it. It's a double tube. Inside one of the tubes, you have a wire to help you twist tie it onto the crop. And then in the other tube, it contains the active ingredient, the pheromone, and it's a season-long dispenser. Right, next slide. So just to sort of sum it up, our experience was that the mating disruption technique, when it's controlling the major pests, which was the case with pink bollworm in cotton in Egypt, then everything else, all the other IPM components, are arranged around that use of mating disruption. The program was very efficient and was sustainable over a number of years, because we found that there was a strong carryover effect from one year to the next. In other words, the population level that you had at the end of one season allowed you to start the next season with a lower population, so that over time the problem was diminished. The environmental benefits are huge, but they're rarely documented. And we were fortunate enough to have a study done in Egypt to see the benefits, the environmental benefits. And it was certainly shown that the groundwater contamination, the spray drift, the benefits to the operators was very easy to demonstrate, but we had some surprises as well. The honey production in the area went up, even though you don't need honeybees to pollinate the cotton crop. They do go into the cotton crop, and they use the pollen, and there was clearly far less of an effect on honeybees in that area during that time. And this was a particular situation in Egypt. It saved money also on the application costs, because they used to apply insecticides by plane, and they used to have to bring in foreign pilots to apply the pesticides. And so they didn't have to do that. All the application was done manually by the local population, which kept that money also in the local area. So as you can get, I guess I'm a strong proponent of mating disruption, and this is a well tried and tested technique, and it can be reintroduced, I think, relatively easily, because the technology has not changed and there's a lot of expertise out there in its use. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. It's a very impressive experience that you have shared, work in Egypt, which is quite similar to Pakistan as well. So any question, please, here? Any question from the participants? Just raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Okay. Seems like everything is clear.
I have one question, please.
Yes, please. Yeah.
What was the, for how many days they will be effective if we install these PB ropes in the cotton field? So after pinhead square, up to 2 months or 3 months, or either the temperature will affect its effectiveness?
Temperature affects the release rate, and as a rough rule of thumb, for every 10 degrees rise in temperature, you double the rates at which the pheromone comes out. So if you've got really hot conditions, then you might only get 90 days, but we were looking for 120 days as an average, and we were able to achieve that. If you've got really hot conditions, then you can load these dispensers with more pheromone to overcome any issues like that. You can basically tailor make them to last as long as you want them to last, simply by putting in more active ingredient.
Thank you much. So any other question, please? Okay, if not the case, okay, let's move on to the next talk. So thank you again, Dr. Jones, and I think we'd love to sort of work with you and get your experience. Sorry, I think there's so do you mind, please, who are not talking, just turn off your mic. So next speaker, we're moving on to Professor Shafqat Saeed himself, so that he can give us insight to work they've been doing in the field, purely from research angle. Over to you.
Okay, please allow me to upload my presentation.
So, okay, so you have, okay. Yes, please. Now you are. Now we can see. Yeah. Just make it full, please. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. actually, most of the things has already been done by Honorable Secretary. So I will just give some overview of the work we did earlier in the field, how we conceived that biopesticides are effective and other things are, especially for the whitefly, and also we did some work for the pink bollworm. So I will try to summarize with the minimum time. So first of all, I'm thankful for the Honorable Secretary Agriculture and our worthy Vice Chancellor that they gave me the opportunity to work with the Government of Punjab, and also especially thankful to our team working with me from Department of Entomology and Plant Pathology. So if we see the cotton, before sowing the cotton, when we see, we have wheat in our field most of the time, but some area different crops, but in cotton area, we see after wheat, we sow the cotton. So from where whitefly come? If cotton is there, when we start cotton at that time, before wheat, in the wheat, we cannot see the whitefly on wheat. We observe that this whitefly is on some weeds, in some other field crops and vegetables. Whereas on other side, we have some leftover sticks or cotton bolls in the sticks, and pink bollworm remain there. So these two things we were looking at how we can manage our whitefly and the pink bollworm, because these two pests have the major problem. And how can we manage off-season whitefly and also the pink bollworm? So if we see the natural enemies, that was the major source that we can manage our pink bollworm and the whitefly in the off-season by using these with the help of natural enemies. If we see these natural enemies were present on different weeds crop, and also after wheat, we can see that natural enemies on berseem, lucerne, sometimes in sunflower, and sometimes we observe the natural enemies. So these were the scenario, that was the scenario we were looking for, that how best. So, but when we see the situation in our cotton season, in cotton, how we can conserve the natural enemies against the whitefly and the pink bollworm. But we were using synthetic pesticides from very early stage, even after sowing of 1 month, people start using the insecticides. Whereas we start controlling the sucking pest by using the peratride. And these were the common practice with the farmers. And we recommend, mostly government and industry also recommend, that we should apply the bifenthrin, that is good for the pink bollworm, and also because suicidal emergence was observed in early stage. So at the same time, parathrides were being used, and also any other insecticides were being used. After using these parathride, the whitefly population flare up in within 2-3 months, population increase.
Yeah, who's kindly unmute. Okay, go ahead, Shukr.
Thank you, sir. So we observe the symptoms of the whitefly cotton leaf boll virus was the indirect damage, and the blackening of the cotton was the another problem, and blackening of the leaves was another problem. So in early stage, that was going. So what we did.
Sorry, Shaukat Saab, I think by mistake I just turned off. आपको mute कर दिया. आप unmute कर देते हैं, please. मैं दूसरे colleagues को कर रहा था, आप mute हो गए. Sorry. जी, please.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
So what we did at the first time that we tested all available pesticides in the market, that either these pesticides are safe for the beneficial insects or not. Where we see different insecticides, the data shows that the chrysopa and the spider mortality, you can see in the different days, up to 7 days, it was different pesticides, maybe 80 or more than 80% mortality was shown by the different insecticide application. It seems that when we apply in early stage pesticide, then we kill all the beneficial fauna from our cotton field. And this beneficial fauna cannot help to manage our whitefly nymphal population at early stage or any other pest. So we were killing ourselves these beneficial fauna from the cotton field. If we see, there are different research paper has been published. This one paper published from Egypt. In Carcia, there was one of the parasites of whitefly. In the upper slide, right side, you can see here, the population of the whitefly nymph was very low when the different types of the beneficial predators are in Carcia population was there. But here in the lower slide, you can see the beneficial fauna is very low in Carcia population, but the whitefly population is very high. So, and these are the different things then when we observe that we should think about that what should we do. Then we also tested that why the persons, they are using the parathrides, especially when suicidal emergence, because at early stage, when we grow the cotton in the April, May, usually in May, or at the end of the April, the pink bollworm suicidal emergence, they emerge, and we say them as suicidal emergence. But in our country, we have two times sowing cotton occurs. Some people, they grow cotton in early stage, especially in the February. And when this pink bollworm early population emerge, they have their host available. So the people, when they grow at time, when the time of after harvesting of the wheat, at that time, the pink bollworm is already established nurseries in early sown cotton. So the people, they use different types of the insecticides, so that population also attack after 1 month or the 1.5 months of sowing of the usually grown cotton sown. So the people think that we should spray parathride on it. Then we tested different types of the parathride. When we spray the parathrides, 1 or 2 and 3 spray of parathride continuously, we can see the treatment number 4, the population increase. Whereas if we have some type of soft insecticides, we cannot say that, but there are some type of the soft insecticides in treatment 2, so that the population of the whitefly increased, but not so much as compared to the parathride we spray. So we think that we should stop the parathride application in our application time. So after that, we discussed and with the Honorable Secretary and the all other my colleagues from the different universities that what IPM should be adopted in the cotton field. And then we started from using by conserving the natural enemies. And how can we conserve the natural enemies? Only by delaying the pesticide application. When we delay the pesticide application, naturally the population of the natural enemies will increase and they control naturally the population of the pest in the cotton field. And in case some plants, some farmers, they have more attack of the whitefly, then we use plant extracts. And that has already been experimented. I will show you some slides about the effect of the plant extracts at that time. So we started with this, and for the pig bollworm, at the flowering stage, we have some experiment regarding the installation of the PB ropes for at the flowering stage and also at the pinhead square. So we found that at flowering stage was the more suitable time because here temperature is high and its effectiveness of the lure was up to 80 days, somewhere in the 70 days. So these were some problems. So we delay, and sometimes we found very good if we use, instead of one-time installation, we install two-time PB ropes, then we find very good results. And another thing was, rather than using whole BT, because in our country, initially we started from single gene, then double gene, now we are looking for triple gene. So these things were very difficult for us, for the farming community and for the scientists, that every time we are looking for different line for the pink bollworm management. Unfortunately, all our genes, varieties from single, double, and triple genes, the pink bollworm has developed resistance. Now we can see even in the triple gene varieties, the pink bollworm attack is there. Even though some varieties have low attack and the others have the higher. So we found that we should do apply some refugia, and so I will show you some slides about all these activities. So we found that the refugia application, refugia sowing non-BT cotton with the cotton, very good, and also the PB ropes. Single is good, but if we can apply the double dose, that was the more good. So we monitor the pink bollworm from pheromone traps also. Usually we use 2-3 traps, but this year we were recommending 8 traps per acre for the management of the pink bollworm. As government also last year and this year they give the subsidy for the for the PB ropes, 1,000 rupees for the farmers, and Cotton Research Institute, maybe they are giving the PB ropes to the farming community. So that was the strategy behind that, and I will show you only few results of the work which we did in the field. So here you can see the effect of the pesticides on the whitefly. You can see the population of the whitefly in different insecticide, like we use one insecticide, but we use different plant extracts. Here you can see the effectiveness of the Portoma was like bitter apple was highest to the all other products we use, and rather than we use some nanoparticles with the neem and also some other products also. So we are working on it, nowadays we are working to extract some proteins from these plant extracts, and these protein formulation might be used in the future for with the encapsulation of the nanoparticles that will be effective in the future. So we also observed the effectiveness of these plant extracts on the beneficial fauna. We found that they are comparatively very less mortality as compared to the insecticides. These are the different things, so I will not prolong it. Just I want to show you that what type of the chemicals they have in the different plant extracts. Like insecticide proteins, lectin is present in the bitter apple seed, tobacco leaf, and the castor bean seed. So they affect on the insects' fecundity, growth, and the development and feed behavior, as well as an oviposition. So this shows that the bitter apple application is good for management of our insects, whereas neem leaf, neem seed, and the tobacco leaf, they have the proteinacesis, so that causing the reduction in the development, as well as mortality, disruption of the midnight epithelial cells in the midgut of the larvae. So in the same way, you can see that the different plant extracts, what we studied and what we observed, they were good, and they have history with them, that they are chemically, and they have the insecticidal proteins in these products. Due to this, we recommended these biopesticides to spray on the insects to manage it. And up till now, the different farmers, daily we see that they are too much happy that they are using these plant extracts, even though the insecticides, they are not as good as these biopesticides are working in the different fields. So what we do, that we start from seed treatment, but unfortunately this year we checked all the insecticides available in the market for seed treatment data. We could not find a single insecticides which can control the sucking insects even in 15 days, up to 15 days, no insecticide seed treatment was effective to manage the insect, because it was a tool for the management in IPM, because seed treatment was safe, but we could not find anyone. So we were using different plant extracts in combination, as secretaries are told, and also we observed different weeds, that these weeds are the host in different months. The whitefly is present on these weeds, but some weeds are very good for the beneficial insects. So we recommend that some weeds should be there, but these weeds which I'm showing you, these are not good. So we have to specifically focus on these weeds to uproot from the field or nearby the field area. So if you see here, throughout the years, when we see the first generation we observe on the winter vegetables, then second generation, then third generation. After that, we find these whitefly names and the others on the weeds and also on the sunflower. Then up to fourth and fifth generation, whitefly starts on the cotton, till 11th or 12th generation, because sometimes temperature rise and its generation increase. So these few plants are the major host, but nowadays we also observe different trees. They are the different, like shisham, cirrus, and different trees. They are also host of the whitefly, and we are trying to manage these whitefly from the alternate host. Here is another experiment about the use of the PB ropes, and also we observed the beneficial fauna in them. And then we observed that where we used PB ropes, the beneficial fauna was higher as compared where PB ropes were not used. We used insecticides, beneficial fauna was very low, and the whitefly population flared up. So you can see these things. The PB ropes lower line, upper line is the farmer practice. So the population in the PB ropes were of the pink bollworm was lower, and the pink bollworm population with the PB ropes without PB ropes was higher. The same as the case is here. So PB ropes with the 120 ropes per acre, and second application, where the second application you can see the population is less. This was just another experiment just to see to how to, because dissection of the boll was difficult procedure. And by dissecting the boll and then deciding either we should spray or not, then we just checked that when we should apply the insecticides for the management of the pink bollworm. This is only for the decision making. We observed that by installing the pheromone traps, when 9 moth catches per trap per night, average consecutive for 3 nights, then we can decide, then we should spray. Otherwise, before that, we did not recommend. This is our research work, and we are focusing on it. So that was the things. And then we did refugia trials. Different countries, they have different recommendation of the refugia with the non-BT. And Pakistan, we have this one, but unfortunately, we did not follow that refugia growing in our country. But what we did, that we did experimentation with the different sowing of the refugia non-BT in the different model, like row cultivation in different rows, border cultivation around the, in between there was a BT, and around that there was non-BT few lines. Then we have a separate block, then we have seed mix and in control. So you can see in every system, the pink bollworm population or damage is less as compared to the control where only BT is grown in August and in September. So even though, and we use 20% seed mix, non-BT control. So we are looking forward that if we can, how can we say that if our farmers can grow the non-BT with the BT, then might be a chances that we can reduce the attack of the pink bollworm in the double, triple genes, because after triple genes, what we will see, but how can we manage the pink bollworm? So we don't have another solution as China did, and China is still using single gene variety, Cryptomyces, in their crops, and they manage their pink bollworm by F1 generation mixing in the seed. So in this way we can, because they're using hybrid varieties, so they are managing their pest. I think that was the whole things which we did. That was our suggestion that we should move towards the biopesticides. We are working on the different things. We should do some resistance monitoring and the mechanism and for the evaluation. We should work for the IPM. We should work for the develop some susceptible lines of the whitefly in our system so that the resistance studies should be done. And another thing that we are working with some scientists, that we are developing some resistance monitoring tool in the field. So that we should know that this field population is resistant to this group of the insecticides, so that we should give them another solution. But when we were working on it, we could not see any other group available in the world in anywhere that these insecticides are good to break the insecticide resistance of the whitefly population. So we have to move IPM, biopesticide, biological control that will be more good and safe for the management of our cotton pest. And we are moving towards the growing the organic cotton in different parts of our country. I'm thankful to the scientists with support to me, my team, my team leader, Professor Dr. Asif Ali, and Honorable Secretary Agriculture. Thank you very much. And at the end, I'm very thankful to Professor Dr. Farooq and Professor Butt. They are supporting me a lot because whenever I have some problem, they help me a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shafqat Saeed Saab, for giving insights to the work that you've been doing in Mansoor. And I know the time been really short today, and we have slightly changed the format of the program today. So we will not have the panel discussion. So I will just ask maybe 1 or 2 questions, and then I'll ask the Honorable Vice Chancellor Saab to close the event for today. So any questions here, please raise your hand.
Just one question from me.
Yes, please.
Shafqat Saab, very nice presentation. I think you're doing a great work. So my question is about these botanicals which we are using. So at what stage we are? So are we seeing these botanicals in terms of the commercial products coming out, or we are still kind of testing out on the farmer's field, and what's the way forward on these ones?
Very good question. Actually, we're looking forward that any industry should come. But we are thinking that it will be more good that if we go towards the microbial biopesticide formulation instead of this biopesticide, because it's difficult for the production of these plants and collection and then formulation. These things we educate our farmers that they are doing themselves, but the availability of the plants will not be so much to have all area management of this pest. So I think it will be more good if we will switch towards the microbial natural pesticide formulation rather than the biopesticide. This is a way that the farmers can do, but for the industry, microbial insecticide will be more good.
Thank you so much.
We are here happy to help you with the biopesticides, and we can work together on that one. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Farooq. There's a hand raised by Munawar Kazmi Saab. Thank you so much, Munawar Saab, for joining. Ji, please ask.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. And I really appreciate the efforts of all the teams from Punjab under the leadership of the Honorable Secretary Saab and Dr. Asif Saab from Mansoor University. I mean, things have really changed since Dr. Asif has joined in over there and Secretary Saab has joined there. I would like to share my own experience very quickly. I will not take much of your time. We started cotton IPM in 2000 in Punjab. And in today's discussion, I think we all focused more on products, while I believe, and what I have learned in IPM, that the focus should be on man, the farmer, because whether it's a biopesticide or it's a parathride or PB ropes or any biological control, until and unless the man, the farmer who is doing all the activities is not convinced what he needs to do to get good production, sustainable production, things will not work. He is so much being influenced by the private pesticide companies that his own decision making lacks the basis. So what we tried it from 2000 to 2006, that we tried to educate farmers. And Honorable Secretary Saab, whenever you have time, just let me know. We still have farmers group active in Bahawalpur, where they are still producing cotton with minimum use of pesticide. I remember in 2001, when our farmers took the zero pesticide cotton to the Bahawalpur wholesale market, nobody was ready to buy that. I'm glad that my previous chairman PRC, Dr. Yusuf Zafar, mentioned Captain Arif Nadeem and others, but I think he forgot to mention that late Dr. Iftikhar Ahmed was the teacher of those two couple of people, to influence them to bring them into the IPM net. So the focus has to be that the pest will be there always. You cannot eradicate that. We used to do a game with farmers, which is called balls with holes. And we used to tell farmer that if 30% or 30 balls on a plant has already dropped on the ground due to unavailability of the plant to support those balls. So if 10 are taken up by and eaten by the insect, what difference does it make? Because plant doesn't have the capacity to hold all the balls on their plants, on their sticks. So then we used to ask farmer to study the number of eggs of any predator available on their plants. Sir, my humble request would be, please, all this research is very important, but try to develop a sort of a program where farmers' capacity is built. He can talk to the pesticide dealer, he can talk to the pesticide seller, and he can question why you are forcing me to buy a certain pesticide. I am happy to link you with the available farmers who are still practicing. We worked in 500 villages across Punjab and Sindh. All was not success. We had many failures, but we had some successes which really worked. And you talked about the traces of pesticide in the milk, which Nestle wanted to import. I can share you the study which we did with the help of FAO, that the women in the Basti Lad area, their breast milk was contaminated with pesticide. That was, I'm talking of 2002, 2003. So I don't think we have moved forward. We are still in circle, coming back to the origin. We still have time. If we want to have good and sustainable yield, we need to focus on man, which is more important than the product. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Munawwar Kazmi Sahab. Munawwar Kazmi is a country director for ACIR, so it's Australian research funded up body. So sorry, I forgot the full name of the organization. So very supportive of the research. So I think this is a very important question. Maybe we let this Honorable Secretary to answer. So how to educate our farmers? Let's go back to the sort of advocacy of the farmers. Over to you, Secretary.
Thank you very much. Actually, we have been working on IPM from 2 years. Last year, we published from Punjab government published a book, helping book for the farmers, and most of our farmer meetings we try to hold at around the IPM plots. So that's why I feel most of the practices were adopted by the farmers. And this year again, as you know, there are a lot of pressure on the price side, high prices of pesticides, high prices of the fertilizer. There are also some sort of evil side, you will say, that are also supporting us to convince the farmer very easily that these are basically what would work. Would work the model that go for the low input cost, optimum production, and better return on investment. So we proved to farmer this year again, we are holding the same level of trainings for the farmers, and our extension team is doing our, even this year, we included the students from the universities, Mansoura, from Faisalabad University, from Islamia University, Bahawalpur, and other universities, trained them well and sent to the field. Even my the officer from the secretariat side, we deputed them to the field, and one district was given to one officer. They were nominated as monitoring officers. First, we asked Dr. Shafqat Saeed and Mansoor to train them to how to scout the pest, how to advise, and then send to field. So we are on the track. We are trying to convince them. There are a lot of problems, but hope is there. We are very positive, and I hope it will help not only the cotton growers, but also the country in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Secretary Saab. I think the debate, there's so many unknown areas that we need to discuss, but I think it's a continuous effort, and we always think educating farmers is the key. And IPM cotton doesn't mean only cotton. So IPM is around crops. So what is other crops grown? There's one more question, Mohammed Dilshad Saab ji, please ask your question. जी दिलशाद साहब अपना म्यूट कीजिए, अनम्यूट कीजिए.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
जी please. Walaikum assalam.
Sir, how can we manage plant population in after the long interval of row to row distance and plant to plant distance to minimize our pest and disease attack on cotton growers and cotton crops? Kindly guide us.
Thank you very much. I think this question is much more about agronomy of the crops. So how do you maintain the plant population? So this is something, I don't know, it's a difficult question to answer. Anyone want to give a quick answer here? Please. Anybody interested to answer this question? Or?
Yeah, I think this relates to different varietal characters. They have different row to row distance. Different varieties have different characteristics because this recommendation comes from different institutes. They approve their varieties. So usually we want that the plant population should be 17,000 to 20,000 plants per acre. It should be maximum. Otherwise, if population is higher than this, there will be no ventilation in the crop, and the pest population will develop. Main thing is that rather than thinking the line to line or plant to plant distance, we should think the conservation of the natural enemies in the field. So that will make the change. Even though the population will be more high, the pest pressure will not develop. So these are the different things there which are interlinked, and maybe in the future we will be successful to do that.
I would like to add one thing in this. I would like to add one thing. During our last year experiment or field visits, we observed that the plant should be, the whole field should be sown in a way that air should pass through it. For example, or mostly the field that were sown on direction from north-south, they were in better position to handle the pest pressure than those fields that were in west-east. Furthermore, I have seen that some farmers, what they do, they start sowing in northwest, and at the end, they just to save their time and to save mobility, due to mobility of tractor, last rows 4 or 5 they put on at the end of their field, but due to that, airflow stops and pest population increases, and it becomes difficult to handle that pressure.
If you allow me, I want to add something.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Ghulam Sarwar is our. Are you direct? No, it's all. He is almost Director Cotton, Punjab. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. There are two things. First is that we have standard row distance according to our implements. Our implements are designed to maintain 2.5 feet row distance. As far as the plant to plant distance is concerned, it depends upon two things. Number one, characteristics of the variety. What type of variety is there? Compact, semi-compact, or it is bushy. Then the time of sowing. If you sow cotton in the early season, before April or during April, then we have different spacing. And if we sow it late in the late May, then we have to reduce the plant-to-plant distance. But we should consider, keep in view one thing, that at the full growth of the plant, there must be ventilation or movement of the air through the crop to avoid some diseases, and also for the prevention of light and other farm operations. So it is said that plant population per acre must be 18 to 21,000 per acre. If we go late in the season, then it may be, or we have variety that is very compact. So we may go to 27 up to 30,000 plants per acre. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghulam Sarwar Sahab. I think we'll host a separate discussion. We usually do these kind of evening batiks on specific cotton issues, but I think this is more like a debate around the scientists talking to each other. So no, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate. Now the time is ticking, and before I just go, I just want to make an announcement. Actually, there is a international symposium on biopesticides happening here in Swansea University from 11th to 14th of September. So maybe Dr. Farooq Shah will be able to give maybe some for the details what's covered there. So maybe if someone is interested to come from Pakistan, please do join us. Dr. Shah, you want to add something?
Yeah. Thanks, Khalid. I think it's going to cover all the key areas of the IPM. So the symposium is called as the new IPM. So we'll be looking at the traditional approaches of the biopesticides, pheromones, mass trapping, and also using the computational sides on the AI side. So it's quite a comprehensive, and I think there is over 100 different experts are coming. I'll share the details in the chat right now, and anyone interested, they can join us, please. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Farooq. So now the time is ticking, so we should go back to Professor Asif Ali Saab to finally conclude this event. And
well, thank you very much, sir. Khalid, I really appreciate. I participated in the whole webinar. I didn't miss even a single talk, and I really enjoyed. And that is the right kind of forum which was created. The questions were raised and answered, and different perspectives were presented. I would like to start from Munawar Kazmi, and he has his experience field work, and I had a chance to meet some of the farmers where Munawar Kazmi had been working, a long time ago, at least 10 years ago. So the bottom line, he rightly concluded, whatever we do, it has to be farmer centric. And we did a kind of designed survey in a cotton region where we analyze that what are the reasons that the productivity in cotton is low. So there were 4 factors. 1, the education of the farmers. 2, quality of the inputs. 3, the availability of the credit, and 4th is the marketing. These are the 4 factors basically. And I would again re-emphasize that the farmer education, or the kind of vigilance, or jisko kehte hain Urdu mein sana hona uska, it's very important, and that makes a huge difference. And I had been looking very critical, very powerful, I think, presentations and debates coming all over. I really appreciate Secretary Saab. He has a passion, and I really appreciate that passion. And my team, Dr. Shafkat is a very competent man, in terms that he is not just a professor who works in the labs and lecture rooms. He is a field-oriented person, and he also has that passion, that to kind of leading towards IPM and looking at the whole scenario of pest management. So I belong to this area, and since I sort of started understanding the thing, I had been living in cotton. My father had been, doing farming in cotton, and we have seen all those times where the cotton was planted, let's say in May, June, and it was the final picking would come in January. So, and we were not spraying any pesticide, even not much of fertilizers. At least I don't remember that. So we were using all those time, and we were happy that again at that time, cotton was the cash crop, and wheat was not. Wheat was not the cash crop. We were, the wheat lately become a cash crop, and then the balance change where we moved towards two crops giving equal importance to wheat crop, and we had to adjust the sowing times, the planting geometry, the kind of protection measures and everything. It is partly because of the population pressure we had, and partly the things were moving. Likewise, if we see these botanicals, we have seen, at least for the stored grain pests, nobody was using any tablets or nothing. There were, leaves of neem, they were placed in the green, and or brolas or all those kind of silos which were in the villages. We used to do these things, and likewise for controlling insect pests, domestic pests, all those things, there were simple solutions. So then, the commercialization came, and the commercialization came, one, because of the population pressure, two, the increased interest of commercial farming, and then the government sector themselves introduced some pesticides. May Allah bless Dr. Zuhur. He was the one who started this thing, and then he engaged people from private sector to move towards these sides. And then we had a jump in our cotton yield and cotton production. Likewise, if I if I have to say what are the three major factors, I would say during the whole journey, there was a very interesting question from Yusuf Zafar also, because we are there in the same field. He was Director NIPG, and we were sitting all those forums there. So one, seed. So we do not have any seed stewardship. And because of the lack of seed stewardship, the lack of following the seed certification systems, we destroyed the seed system. Even today, this year, Secretary Saab is sitting here. How much area is planted with the certified seed? This is the question. If we do not have that, kind of stewardship or that control over seed, how we could assess other things? The other is nutritional stewardship. I mean, historically, we have seen put some urea, put nitrogen. Okay, phosphorus was applied to wheat. There is no need of phosphorus. There was no concept of balanced fertilizer. So that was, another thing. The third thing is essentially, which has damaged the most, that is the pesticide or plant protection stewardship. So we had been using these things indiscriminately, and the blame should go to pesticide companies, or let's say, if we take it otherwise, or lack of our or the public sector sort of strength in reaching out to the farmers. So instead of kind of helping the farmers, we designed our systems of extension and everything, which were not helping the farmer. Instead, we were more regulatory, doing regulatory things. So, and we have seen, by the way, there were discussions that I remember, because I was in the whole journey, born and raised in cotton. Then we, sort of educated at University of Agriculture, Faisalabad. So because of belonging to the cotton area, and my, MSc was also on cotton. So I had interest on cotton. So there was a, I remember a story that Dr. Yusuf was a great entomologist. He was awarded a civil award also, and he had a work, Dr. Shafkat knows him, on whitefly particularly. And he came up with the hypothesis that whitefly can be killed or controlled through simple spray of water. And he did his experiment, at least I have seen, for 3 years. And finally he concluded, no, this is not the solution. Water, simply spraying water is not the solution. But anyway, if we look back in the history, that where we missed, we started from simple thing and we were managing these things, where we missed the train. And likewise, if I see my institution, I'm here for the last 6 years almost. So Dr. Shafkat, very competent, very good ideas. We have been working on insect resistance management. weed resistant management, all private sector attached, multinational, national with us. He has, all the time new solutions of, microorganisms, botanicals, and other things. But they are not reaching out to the people to the extent that we could, sort of manage our crop with these things. And by the way, let me intervene with those old times about the agronomy and cotton. We have somewhere missed the environment also. So there is a huge change since we were kids and now in the environment, and particularly the night temperature has affected. And we remember, if we look back at the agronomy, and we must kind of acknowledge the question came about the agronomy of planting cotton. So in the beginning, when there was a saying, our father would say, look, dakhan chal paya, insect control ho jayega. So the air has, and that has been seen, during the planting season last year also, that the dakhan was effective. But essentially, if we look where we missed the train, why we have not continued with our original practices. I would analyze my institution, the strength I have, the expertise I have, the commitment we have, and everything, that we, unless and until we sort of enter into a phase, because this is the difference of science and arts. Once we say that the solution has to come from science, it has to have scientific basis, that we do the same thing, same formula given black and white. If anybody else wants to do it, he or she can do it. This is the science. So we have to make it the stepwise, that how the science can be converted into knowledge, and then the knowledge can be converted into products, and that products could be piloted and then goes to the commercialization stage. So during this phase, when we had, sort of botanicals or no chemicals, then we have pesticides there, but the word moved and we did not. There we missed the train, sir. The word moved to the transgenics, particularly for cotton, and we were still struggling, or we were having a kind of a scenario where we were planting BT, but the stewardship was missing in this. And I did a project with Ipm, particularly that, I'm talking about the stewardship now, that why we lost, initially with the fine, legally or illegally, or, there was no patent on BT1, and we acknowledged the efforts of those, I'm not naming them, those who brought in that gene here, and we were able to control all those, bollworms, particularly the American and pink bollworms. But again, that seed stewardship never existed. We never followed the variety approval system. Everybody was doing, his or her business there. And lately, I did a project in 2014, 15, and 16 for 3 years. Whole of the Punjab and whole of the Sindh were surveyed extensively with the team of Ipm International Food Policy Research Institute. The money came from USAID through Pakistan Strategy Support Program, and there were, kind of very known scientists from USA. They were our partners. PRC was our partner. So we thoroughly surveyed, very scientific based, and we said, and the question we asked is that why our yields are not increasing in spite of MBT. So there we analyzed that again, the BT, we were asking that what is the, philosophy behind control of those insects. So we would say, look, there is this toxin goes to the, when it gets through the gut of the bollworm, that doesn't survive. So then we had, okay, there was a question when we did first year study, there was a question that why, you are kind of taking the dose from India or from USA. Our environment is different and we are different. Fine. We find that 0.5 microgram BT is enough. But the varieties we surveyed, one question, majority of the farmers were not aware whether their planted crop is BT or non-BT. They were being sold as BT. We had no test. Two, most of the time, in majority of the crops, Dr. Sarwar would agree with me, the expression level was not up to the mark. And ultimately, the resistance built up, and fine, it had to happen. Then we never followed that system of refuge and other things. But essentially, again, I would say the question, a very interesting question Yusuf Zafar asked, and we know all those times, and they were very capable people on our team. And the whole group, they were again back, a couple of years ago, and they had managed those things very timely, and very good efforts were made. But essentially, if we and he gave an example that look at the sugarcane and the cotton. So where I see the difference is that the sugar mills, they kind of have their own command area. They can have control on their own seed. They can have command on their production systems. And if we can sort of strengthen our ginners, because they are the people, those who suffers the most if the cotton is not there. If we can establish a system, they can produce their own quality, own standards without pesticide or whatever the quality, they can sell it as premium. But I again appreciate, the IPM is the way forward. It is the way forward. We had been struggling on this. Dr. Shafkat had been making efforts. We have been doing experiments on, PB ropes with the small trap, yellow traps, with the smart traps. Now we are promoting there. But I would like to take the benefit of this crop. Farooq Shah is there, and I offer myself that whatever the product is there, will be very happy to incubate that people to convert into a commercial product where there is a set scientific formula which can use cardamom, which can use garlic, which can use gourd or whatever. It has to have some kind of formulation systems where the people could be made aware, or we can have a sustainable system which can carry for the control of for managing the cotton. But essentially, I would like to appreciate the Secretary Saab and Shafkat and all other who had been working. There is no difference of opinion about IPM. Nobody would disagree. The second thing is we have to minimize the window for pesticides, because once you start spraying pesticide, you do not have any end. So therefore, I keep on discussing, and we are so on the same page. But we have to come up for a sustainable long-term solution. Like Yusuf Zafar was saying, that there has been the same things happening when I was a kid. Then I was, in a kind of age where I could understand and want to see and other people. And now where I'm, at the verge of retirement. But we have to kind of bridge those gaps through science and a kind of line for sustainable system where we could have a better control through IPM. So thank you very much indeed. I again appreciate, and I would like to kind of continue the dialogue. And we would like that Farooq Shah Saab and Khalid and all others, the investment needed is not that big deal. Secretary Saab had been struggling for biopesticide, and we, and this is discouraging also, by the way. So we never get any grant yet for commercializing the biopesticide. I appreciate Farooq Shah. He has brought some funds, and they are working together with Dr. Shafkat, a fully scientific based, and whatever the support is needed from the university, I am available. But I would encourage Shafkat to incubate a company. Let's start it as a business, and then it would come up with a system there where we could promote biopesticides or those solutions which are environmental friendly. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Professor Asif Ali Saab. Mashallah, you have just closed what's called Samandar ko kuze mein band karna. Sorry, when I just use this terminology, just trying to find a better way in explaining in English. But I think this is, as we say in agriculture, there is no single solution work for everything. So you need to have these series of solutions, and there is no single hammer. So you have to have hammering. And again, agriculture itself, the debate is around bigger picture could sustainable agriculture, resilient agriculture system, which could work under this changing climate. We never had seen this temperature in the UK as well. So 40 degree, 40.2. So this is the climate change. So the climate change is going to bring things which we never have seen in the past. So the crops like cotton will be having a severe effect from the climate change. So I think we took a lot of your time. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today in this debate. And this should continue. That Upsign is always there to help and support these dialogues and bring scientific community to work together. And I appreciate Owen for your participation. Owen, you want to make any comments before we just say we close the event? Owen, over to you.
No, well, just to say I've enjoyed it very much, and as other speakers have said, it's an absolute must now that we embrace IPM, because it's our last chance basically before our conventionals are all defunct. So best of luck, everyone, in your efforts.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think Secretary Saab is here. Again, there's so many people who have just listened from today. Maybe a word of wisdom from you, Honorable Secretary Saab, and the commitment from the Punjab government. We just want to hear from you again before we just close the event.
Continue.
Mute.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry, you were about to say something, Secretary Saab.
Thank you very much. I'm thankful to you and the organization that they have managed this talk, and I hope it will continue in future, and will continue to learn a lot for our farmers, for our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. There were professionals who joined from Pakistan, from the UK, and also from other parts of the world as well. So thank you, everybody. And we look forward to continue these discussions, and have a lovely day. Sorry with my cranky voice today, so I just picked up COVID, but I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.